This week in the news, we have Solana with all kinds of issues popping up. This is nothing new because Solana's had a lot of problems this past year and it's making headlines. I am here to talk about what Crypto Jebb's take is on it. He decided to hold no punches and basically go right at Solana with all their issues. I have some remarks in terms of what he has to say. He's got his own ideas. That's fine. But let's see if we can get some more insights on what his remarks were. Here we go.
As of June 19th, 2022, Solana is down about 88% from its all-time high of $260 in November of 2021.
Down 88%, like everything else.
The crypto community is becoming less forgiving of the technical issues that have continued to plague Solana throughout 2022. From January 1st to June 19th, Solana confirmed 9 instances of major blockchain outages. A blockchain outage can occur for many reasons, but never, and I cannot stress this enough, ever should occur. An outage is unacceptable because it's a failure that would be disastrous once crypto scales to mass adoption.
Okay, let's stop right there. So he's talking about how a blockchain outage should never, ever occur. I get the idea. I really do. Blockchain, however, is something that is bleeding edge. It isn't something like databases, which have been around since the 70s. This is new technology. So the expectation that you're going to have something that works and continues to work without any kind of bugs being discovered is not realistic in my estimation. I understand every single blockchain that has existed has had some kind of stoppage at some point in time. Even Bitcoin has stopped on numerous occasions in its history. So to make a comparison with Solana with saying that, no blockchain should ever stop, well, every single blockchain has. Now, the frequency of Solana, I understand it's been quite frequent, but at the same time, the amount of transactions that Solana has processed in that time frame, it makes every other blockchain look small in comparison. They've processed millions upon millions upon millions of transactions, which means you're going to find more bugs that way versus other blockchains, which are a lot slower, are not going to be able to discover these issues as fast as what's happening with Solana. So just to keep things balanced and fair, considering the scale in terms of like what Solana has processed compared to what other blockchains have, you got to be fair in that sense. Let's continue.
Facebook, Xbox Live, and even Super Bowl stadiums have been known to experience outages in the past, but global currencies must be different. At scale, cryptocurrencies must provide consistent accessibility to users. This year, Solana has proven that its infrastructure is not reliable enough to scale out to mass adoption. In one of the most recent Solana outages that took place on June 1st, 2022, a major component of the
Hold
blockchain
right there.
code...
So he's saying Solana's proven itself not reliable enough to scale to mass adoption. There's no platform in blockchain that's proven itself to be able to scale to mass adoption. There's nothing out there that's doing that. So let's be real. He's being a little bit parabolic in this sense where he's saying that, if we're going to have mass adoption and we're going to be able to use it, then we can't be able to rely on this sort of thing. That's just not fair. It's the same argument that can be made for every single other blockchain in the space. So let's continue.
Was caused by an error in the portion of Solana's protocol that assigns a temporary reference code to transactions so that they can be validated by the nodes before the transaction data is permanently added to the ledger. This reference code is called the durable nonce and is part of Solana's parallel processing system that allows for high throughput and fast transaction speeds. This means that an error in the code can only really happen on Solana and no other blockchain like Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Okay, so hold it right there. So only this blockchain can have this error and not something like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Sure, of course. I mean, because they're completely different systems. But the way he presents it is sort of manipulative because he's saying, well, this would never happen on Ethereum and Bitcoin. Of course not. They're completely different code bases. So why would you even try to make a comparison? It's just like saying, think about cars. It's just like saying this would never happen in a Ford or Chevy, when it's a Ferrari. So they're completely engineered differently. So of course it's not going to happen on those. It's a really weird argument to make that the same thing wouldn't happen with Bitcoin or Ethereum because they're all engineered differently. You could say if something happened with Bitcoin, then Ethereum could turn around and say, oh, that would never happen in Ethereum. It's true. They're just engineered differently. So it's kind of what you would call a straw man's argument, just so you know. Let's keep going.
Solana's blockchain malfunction resulted in an outage that lasts for a little more than 4 hours. It's estimated that 75 million transactions were prevented from executing in that time. Solana's team reacted to the malfunction by disabling its unique...
Holy cow. So in the course of 4 hours of outage, there was approximately 75 million transactions like trying to be processed. That is such a huge amount of transactions. That dwarfs like the history of all Bitcoin transactions in the course of 4 hours. That's insane. So just imagine that kind of throughput that's happening. That's just phenomenal. I'm kind of amazed actually that there's that much activity going on within that chain. That's pretty impressive actually. But again, something to note, to keep in mind, the fact that there was an outage during that period, that means nobody else is trading. Nobody else is able to move their funds. There's no kind of funny business going on. That's very different than when Coinbase goes down. Because when Coinbase goes down, you actually have people who are working behind the scenes or able to access the back end still being able to do stuff, right? And that is where everybody has been so upset over the course of the years, where every time there's a bull market, Coinbase goes down just at the time when everybody wants to be able to make trades. It always happens, right? It's just a weird coincidence in the space. But meanwhile, if a blockchain goes down, that means nobody else is doing anything. So your funds haven't moved. Whatever trades that could have executed aren't executing. And maybe the rest of the market moved in that time frame, but that's outside of the blockchain's purview. So the fact that it froze, it's actually not so bad, because the fact is that there's nothing happening to anybody else in that period. That it's all just stopped. But that's very different from what we see in centralized systems, where if the front end of whatever's going on goes down, then everybody who works at wherever that centralized exchange is has full access to everything, and they can continue to be able to execute trades or bots or whatever they want and move the markets around while you can't get in there. That's very different than what he's talking about here. Just to understand, when a blockchain goes down, it means nothing is happening and that everybody can't do anything. That is fair. But when centralized exchanges supposedly go down in terms of their front end, that is the time when you got to be worried. So let's just continue anyway.
Durable nonce transaction with a parallel processing system and reverted the protocol to a more reliable processing system. So what is Solana doing to repair its code and its reputation?
Okay, so they had a backup.
15 days after the
so they were good to go.
Solana's official Twitter account posted a link to the GitHub account of one of its developers, Justin Starry. The tweet said this:
2 weeks later,
the upgraded implementation of the durable nonce transaction feature was released on both testnet and devnet yesterday and is currently in testing. Developers can follow progress on GitHub. If you follow that link, you find a GitHub chat that reveals an unsettling truth about Solana's blockchain maintenance speed. Kobe Blockify added, "Are durable nonces activated or not yet?" A contributor account responded saying this: "They are activated on testnet and devnet. Once the mainnet cluster upgrade to recent releases, we can activate the feature on mainnet as well." This means that Solana is dependent on its nodes to deploy the fixes needed to reactivate the durable nonce transactions.
Pause right there. So this is standard, just so you know. They found that there's an issue with the nonce feature built into the chain. They have now taken 2 weeks to work out coming up with a fix for this particular situation that led to the issue. They launched it on the testnet and the devnet, which is standard practice for fixing anything. Okay, so there's nothing unusual about this. And then they're needing to have once the mainnet cluster upgrades to recent releases, we can activate a feature on mainnet as well. So they are simply testing the fix that they've created, and now they're just waiting until that's actually going to be implemented in the mainnet. Nothing unusual here, honestly. So let's continue.
My personal take on this is that Solana is just not reliable enough to scale in the way that it wants to. Solana has always had ambitions to flip Ethereum in market cap, disproportionate
Pause right there.
Sol.
This means that Solana is dependent on nodes being updated. Yeah, duh. That's what happens. Like when you have to update code, there's been version changes to Ethereum, to Bitcoin, to every single blockchain in the world. Why would it be any different with Solana? And why are you making this, again, a straw man argument about what's going on? I just don't buy it. They're making something out of nothing. And for people who don't know how not just blockchain, but any kind of software is developed, this makes it sound like it's something terrible. But everything he's talking about is standard practice. If you know anything about developing software, you know this is all just straw man stuff. Let's keep going.
Relative to top 10 peers, as a result of blockchain outages, all but ensures Solana will never realize those ambitions. As I've said before, Solana has been successful in luring in competitive amounts of dApps and NFT projects relative to Ethereum, but its blockchain infrastructure has proven 9 times so far this year,
Never?
it's not ready for the big leagues. Solana is unsustainable, and the real question for me becomes this: where does the $11 billion worth of funds go when it exits Solana? I think Sol hodlers will probably sell into stablecoins to stay liquid on the sidelines during the bear market, but they may also find Ethereum, Binance, and Cardano to be attractive alternatives. But I want to hear what you think. Tell me in the comments where the $11 billion might flow out of Solana into.
Where does the 11 billion go when it exits Solana? As if Solana is just going to disappear. So there's a couple of things here. So number one, he's being a little bit parabolic in terms of suggesting that all the activity in Solana is just going to go somewhere else. I don't think Solana is going to disappear that easily. They are making improvements. There's going to come a day where suddenly these issues that they're having are going to all but disappear. And then these types of things that they're saying are going to be a thing of the past. The same thing happened with Bitcoin on a few occasions. The same things happen with every blockchain. It's kind of a way for people who have certain favorites in the space to try to make something out of nothing. So where's the 11 billion going to go? It's not going to go to Ethereum, I'll tell you that. Once you've had that kind of speed and that kind of accessibility using a chain that's that fast, and you've engineered products around being able to speed at that transaction pace, you're not going to go slower. It's like trying to take your dial-up modem and then going to high-speed internet and then saying, well, I'm just going to go back to dial-up now and continue to provide my website on my dial-up modem. Like, I know that sounds like a little Gen X-y, but that's the comparison that I see here in terms of like going backwards in terms of your tech, in terms of the speed of the tech. You know, that they're both different. They both have different kinds of applications, and I just think that Solana was optimized to be able to be all about the speed and throughput. And so the reason that dApps and applications have built there is for the speed and throughput. Unless there's something else that can do that, they're not going to move. They're going to continue to try to work with getting these issues fixed. That's what I think anyway. He thinks $11 billion are just going to exit. We'll see.
One more developing Solana story is this. Solana DeFi platform votes to reverse emergency powers to take over whale account facing massive margin call. So this kind of proves all the centralization that's going on Solana, and we will be covering this more.
Hold it right there. So he thinks that everybody, when they exit Solana, are going to go into stablecoins, or they're going to go to another blockchain. They're going to go to Cardano or Ethereum or Binance. So I just said they are there for the throughput and speed. They're not going to be going to any of those chains. Maybe of all those three, the fastest is Binance, but I don't think that they're going to go for that. Honestly, it just doesn't make sense. So again, this seems like a straw man thing. I don't understand why he's, well, maybe it's because he has his favorites. Maybe his favorites are Ethereum, Cardano, and Binance. And that's why you're hearing these arguments. It's important to keep this in mind when you listen to YouTubers. So keep that in mind.
In another video.
Whoa, right there. So this is what got my attention this week about Solana. This DeFi platform voting to reverse emergency powers to take over whale account facing massive margin calls. That is crazy. So I've actually had similar experience with this in BitShares a long time ago, where there was a group of whales who voted to decide that they were going to manipulate the price feeds within the BitShares ecosystem for BitCNY. It happened. It was amazing that it happened, but it happened. Here we have a situation where Solend, which is the platform where this is happening, actually has a whale that if there is a margin call on it, it's going to cause a cascade of issues that are going to really drive the price down on Sol. And so now, rather than letting the contract execute the way it was designed to do, we aren't dealing with rules without rulers. We're discovering that the rulers are the whales within the system, and that they can actually implement something which takes over people's accounts. Wow. That's really scary. That is actually exactly the same as any centralized system. So you're using Solana, you think you're using blockchain, which means that, you know, your keys, your crypto, but here they are doing something that actually says, yeah, but if you do something that we all don't like, we're actually going to take over your account and then we're going to change the rules on you. It's game over. You might as well just quit at this stage. I've been really, defending Solana on all the technical issues up until this point. This is unforgivable, unfortunately. I think that this is going to be the beginning of the end for Solana. I think that it's possibly going to be, it's likely going to be that moment that has everybody realizing this isn't what they thought it was, or for those who actually knew what it was, they're going to say, yep, this is exactly the way I thought it was, and I'm out of here. There's really no point to having a blockchain where other people can be able to then freeze your account and be able to change the rules on you out of the blue when it's most convenient. And this is the thing about what happens when we're in bear markets and when things start to get rough and things start to really test the resolve of people behind what they claim they're going to do. Shows what they're going to do is they're going to protect their own interests. They're not going to protect the system because the system seems that it was designed to actually be about their interests and not about yours. So that's very disappointing, to say the least. I really I hoped that they wouldn't go through with this. I think this whole saga is still going on, as a matter of fact, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. So that's all Crypto Jebb had to say about all this. And needless to say, I think that his take on the technical issues was just a little too much. It was a lot of straw man arguments. Anybody who knows about software development knows that there's a standard. Yeah, if you're going to scale, you're going to have issues in terms of dealing with outages and things like that. They'll improve, and that will be overcome. I think that the $11 billion or so that's invested into the ecosystem has been forgiving to a point. Now that they're starting to lose some, now that they're starting to slide along with everyone else, I don't think it has to do with the technical issues as Crypto Jebb is trying to say. I think it has everything to do with Solend and what's happening with reversing a transaction on the blockchain right in plain sight for everybody to see, that the whole blockchain can just take over and be able to change contracts when it's in its interest. Again, so it just makes Solana look like a giant database, like a typical database, which is no different than anything else that exists in the tech space. You might as well not even call it a blockchain at this stage. So it's very disappointing. But Crypto Jebb, I think, a little parabolic. The only thing that really he was on point with was about Solend and about how they've essentially gone anti-DeFi in their principles, as this title says. So all in all, I hope that Solana can make its way out of this. I don't think they will be forgiven for showing that they are the rulers and are going to make the rules rather than rules without rulers, which is what blockchain should be all about. And I hope that everybody who is in that space can find a way to be able to keep their assets protected, because that's what matters in the end when it comes to blockchain. Thank you so much for joining me, and be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.